4 minutes. That's all it took for one man to score the most controversial goal in football history, and the most beautiful one, in the same match against the same opponent. One was a cheat, a punch of the fist, a deception the referee never saw. The other was a moment of pure genius, weaving past 5 English players to score what would later be voted the greatest goal in World Cup history. This was the day Diego Maradona brought an entire nation to its knees, single-handedly. And the story doesn't begin on the pitch. It begins with a war. In 1982, Britain and Argentina went to war over a small chain of islands in the South Atlantic, the Falklands, or Las Malvinas, as Argentines call them. In 10 weeks of fighting, 649 Argentine soldiers lost their lives. Britain won. Argentina lost more than territory. It lost its pride. 4 years later, the two nations met again, this time in Mexico, in the quarter-final of the World Cup. This was never just a football match. For Argentina, it was a rematch for a war they'd lost, fought on a pitch instead of a battlefield, unarmed, but every bit as fierce. Maradona knew it too. Years later, he'd say that beating England that day wasn't about football. It was about winning the war they couldn't win with guns. Diego Armando Maradona was born in Villa Fiorito, one of Buenos Aires' poorest neighborhoods, a place where running water was a luxury. But on the streets, with nothing but a ball, he was already a miracle in motion. He turned professional at 16. He exploded onto the scene at Boca Juniors. Then came a transfer to Barcelona, but there he contracted hepatitis and later suffered a brutal tackle that shattered his ankle. The club decided they'd had enough of him. In 1984, he moved to Napoli, Italy's poorest, most mocked city. Clubs in the north sneered at them. Maradona would go on to make Napoli champions of Italy for the first time in their history. But that story was still ahead of him. By 1986, at 25 years old, arriving in Mexico, the world still didn't fully know what he was capable of. Argentina cruised through the group stage. Maradona grew more dangerous with every match, dishing out assists, tearing through defences with his dribbling, carrying his team on his back. The quarter-final draw pitted them against England. The match would be played at Mexico City's massive Azteca Stadium in front of 114,000 fans. In goal for England stood Peter Shilton, one of the finest goalkeepers of his generation. For weeks, the press framed the match as a continuation of the war. English newspapers threw around the word revenge. On the Argentine side, there was a quieter, more suppressed anger. On June 21st, 1986, that anger finally reached the pitch. 51st minute. Score 0-0. Maradona surged toward the penalty area, chasing a loose ball. Goalkeeper Peter Shilton rose to punch it clear. Maradona rose with him. The ball hit the back of the net. Maradona threw his arms up and ran off celebrating, as if nothing had happened. But something had. The ball hadn't come off his head. It had come off the clenched fist of his left hand. The English players erupted. They screamed at the referee, at the linesman. But Tunisian referee Ali bin Nasser allowed the goal. The linesman raised no objection. The goal stood. In the post-match press conference, a reporter asked Maradona about the goal. His answer would become immortal. He said the goal was scored, quote, "a little with the head of Maradona and a little with the hand of God." That phrase became the goal's name from that day forward, the hand of God. For England, it was daylight robbery. For Argentina, fate had delivered its revenge, even if it came by hand. But Maradona's true answer was still 4 minutes away. 55th minute. Maradona picked up the ball deep in his own half, near his own penalty area. He turned right, and he started running. He beat the first English player, then the second. By the time he crossed the halfway line, he was still running. The ball seemed glued to his foot. He beat a third defender, then a fourth. When he entered the penalty area, only goalkeeper Peter Shilton stood between him and the goal. Shilton came out to close him down. With one deft touch, Maradona went past him too and slid the ball into the empty net. 10 English players had failed to stop him. In under 10 seconds, he had crossed half the pitch, beaten 5 opponents, and scored one of the most famous goals in football history. Argentine commentator Victor Hugo Morales' live call of that run became legendary across the Spanish-speaking world. His voice cracking as he described Maradona weaving through defenders like an unstoppable force. In 2002, FIFA officially named it the greatest goal in World Cup history. In a single match, one man had created football's greatest controversy and its greatest moment of beauty. Argentina won the match 2-1. Those 2 goals in the quarter-final became the turning point of Argentina's entire tournament. In the semi-final, they beat Belgium 2-0. Maradona scored both goals again. The final pitted them against West Germany. Argentina raced to a 2-0 lead. Germany fought back to equalise, but in the closing minutes, Jorge Burruchaga's goal sealed a 3-2 win and crowned Argentina world champions. Across the tournament, Maradona scored 5 goals and provided 5 assists. He had carried an entire team on his shoulders to the title. In Buenos Aires, millions of people celebrated in the streets until dawn. The pride lost in the Falklands felt, for one night at least, like it had been won back, on a football pitch. Maradona wasn't just a footballer anymore. He was a national hero. Nearly 40 years later, the hand of God is still argued over. In England, many still call it theft. In Argentina, it's remembered as a symbol of justice, delivered on a football pitch. Maradona's life took turbulent turns in the years that followed. Addiction, health struggles, controversy after controversy. But when he died on November 25, 2020, the world remembered him as one of the greatest geniuses the sport has ever produced. On that single afternoon in the quarter-final, one man showed football's darkest side and its most brilliant side, back to back. He cheated with his fist, and 4 minutes later, needing no trickery at all, he scored the most beautiful goal the game has ever seen, with nothing but talent. Maybe that's what made Maradona unforgettable. Flawed and brilliant all at once, both human and legend. If you enjoyed reliving one of football's most controversial and brilliant moments, this is exactly the kind of story we tell here on Footnote. The dramatic, forgotten, and game-changing moments in football history brought back to life. If you want more stories like this one, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next chapter of football history. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.